What's good, Miami sports fans? Welcome back to the Miami Sports Break. David Eversole, joined as always by my partner, Jakari Givens. You can check us out on social media and everywhere at the Five Reasons Sports Network. Before we jump in, want to mention one of our great new sponsors here at the Miami Sports Break and at Five Reasons Sports, La Terrain Watches. You can find them at laterrain.com. Great styles and watches for any budget, any occasion. They're beautiful timepieces. Use our code 5RSN to get 10% off at checkout, laterrain.com. What's going on, Jock? How you doing, bro?
Ooh, I was doing good until after we seen that mauling on Saturday, but excited, for Miami to play Appalachian State, a rebound game, and also it's Dolphins week as well. So, we're
Yeah.
excited to see Tua and against the Patriots, see how that adds up.
Yeah, a lot of Alabama connections, and we're going to talk more about the Dolphins game on our next show Friday, give a full preview, and have a special guest as well. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, Miami just came out, the Hurricanes, in that game against Bama, and from the jump, the game seemed like it was over before it started. And I get the talent gap between the two teams. Obviously, Miami doesn't have the level of talent that an Alabama program does. But once again, you see after a long layoff, or in this case, an entire off season, the Hurricanes come out and lay an egg early in a big matchup. So I'm not going to get into so much of like the big picture with Miami. I want to obviously talk a little bit more with you just about like some of the X and O's and the execution. Like, what did you see on the field, especially from the defense early, that let that game get out of control for the Hurricanes?
Uh, it was a willingness of those guys not willing to tackle, which was very evident when they were running the football. Safeties weren't pulling up as aggressively as they normally would. Um, just they were getting mauled up front, getting blown off the ball. It was a lot of coverage busts, and not per se with him, DJ Ivy. He got beat for a touchdown, but
The
the coverage,
guy.
no, the coverages wasn't there. And they let Bryce Young get in the rhythm.
Mm.
And when they called the game, so they were calling the game so timidly that Manny Diaz was kind of out coaching himself, because when he started bringing exotic pressures, that's when Alabama was killing him. He's bringing different guys from different angles, but I think the stat was Bryce Young under pressure had like 3 or 4 touchdowns for like 295 yards, and when they didn't pressure him, he was like 7 or 9 for 21 yards. So anytime you see that type of stat, it's just guys are not, there's a coverage bust, or they're not running the pressure
Mm.
right.
Yeah, they were wide open. I mean, guys are running around like in the secondary. I know everybody jokes about Alabama quarterbacks and they're always throwing to open receivers, but I mean, whatever it is, if it's the route scheme, if it's the lack of attention to detail on the defense, being out of position, and obviously you played cornerback. So, what did you see from those guys on the boundary in particular? It just seemed like they were just losing at the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? Like guys are getting off the line clean no matter
So
whether
Miami
what
going
was it?
forward needs to start Couch and Stevenson.
Yeah, Stevenson had a great game. I really liked him. I was on with Dono earlier, and we
Yeah,
talked about him
so
for a bit.
Stevenson and Couch has to be the starters going forward.
Hmm
They have to figure out the safety position next to Boba Bolden. Obviously, he left the game pretty early with the targeting rule. It is what it is, but I think they do need to revisit that rule and stop ejecting these guys for that. If it's egregious, yes, but if it's like that, no, just throw the 15-yard flag and let them
hmm
continue to play football. So they have to figure out the safety spot. James Williams looked good in his spot duty. He was coming out. He had showed a willingness to come up and hit and tackle. So, Miami going forward, it's going to be an adjustment period going back to Manny Diaz's style of defense. But when you look at 2017, when Miami lost games, they got routed, right? Because when you run pressures like how he does, that
hmm
aggressive style defense, you do leave the room open for explosive plays, right? Because you're gambling. So if your blitz or pressure doesn't hit home, you're leaving your DBs on the island or the linebackers or whatever because the tight end were killing the backers in coverage. Keontre Smith could
Mm-hmm.
not cover the kid. Flag was not good in coverage, and the tight end 81 had two first half touchdowns. Just on simple route combinations. So when you run pressure, like I said, you're leaving the back end exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, I do want to touch on that. They called the game very poorly. One, it was not an aggressive style game. They were calling the game as in if De'Aaron King was hurt. Um, and you kind of seen it, right? It wasn't a shock that they were calling the game how they called it. It just was like, well, is this kid not healthy? Then we need to get him off the field. You know, if he's not there 100%, we have to get him off the field and make sure that he's, you know, healthy. But he didn't seem healthy. They didn't call any quarterback run game for him. So it was just like Lashley, it was just an overall poor game from both coordinators and Lashley especially. He didn't help Miami.
Yeah, and the running game really couldn't get on track against obviously a formidable Alabama front seven. But King missed some throws. I agree, he didn't quite look 100% out there. I think he misread a couple. I know you and I talked about somebody highlighted on Twitter one of the throws that he missed down the field. I just think
He
that he
didn't
was
take any
feeling the
shots downfield against
yeah
Alabama.
he didn't take it.
Even though to give Bama credit, those guys were pretty, they were pretty tightly covered. Even the touchdown pass he threw to Restrepo, that was
Mm,
great coverage by the kid. It's just an even better throw.
yeah, no, that was a nice pass, and I want to touch on some of the positives because I know there's not a lot you can really take out of a game where you lose by 31 points, but at the same point, the team didn't quit in the second half, which I was pleased to see that they still came out in the second half. The kids fought hard. It seemed like the coaches found a little bit of a groove. The offense started to move the ball a little bit. Granted, Bama, I'm sure, took the foot off the gas. A team like Alabama, they just know how to manage the flow of the game so well. It never seems like you have a chance, even when you start to put some momentum and build a couple scoring drives. It never seemed like the game was in doubt for Alabama. But I was encouraged to see that Miami just didn't fold the tent in the second half and continued to make plays, continue to perform at the best that they could, because quite frankly, they just don't have the horses to compete with a team like Alabama. So I was pleased in their effort in the second half. Definitely, Restrepo had a really good game. Obviously, special teams was pretty key in terms of the kicking game as well. Just to have some stability in one of the position groups was nice to see. So, what are some of the positives that you took out of the game?
Miami's interior defensive line played very well. They were not bad up front. Keontre Smith flashed sometimes, but in coverage he looked at poor. Flag flashed sometimes, but in coverage he looked at poor. But I was very pleased with the front seven. Obviously the edge is different, but the interior and the backers played very well. Miami going forward is a 9-win team with the 10 with the bowl game, like what we expected. We like I From a coaching standpoint, I would love to see Manny Diaz improve because he's supposed to win the Coastal this year. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about
Mm-hmm.
it. They have the team to do it. So we just want to see a coaching improvement. It is the first game, so we want to see how he improves. Does his team come out flat against Appalachian State?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a continuing theme? Like what we're gonna do. But going forward, when we get later down the season, we do want to see Miami perform in those big games. But overall, the defense played well in the second half. They got a couple of stops. Uh, the offense found a little bit of rhythm. We found the right tackle that we needed right now. They named him the starter just when that was Monday or Tuesday. They named him the starter. So we were good to go there. And then overall, you just got to work out some kinks. It's the first game, but Miami has to establish the run game. Don Chaney needs to touch the football way more than he did in that first half. So I like those things, but there's a couple of guys who need more playing time, and it was very obvious when they got in the game.
Yeah, I was a little sorry. I had a little technical difficulty there for a second, but I was a little disappointed in how they used Will Mallory during the game. I think he only had two receptions for the entire game, and like you said, Lashley wasn't really pushing the ball down the field at all, and kind of putting them behind the chains. Down and distance was not their friend in this game, but You're right. They cannot start flat against Appalachian State. They got to come out from the opening whistle and really put the hammer down for 60 minutes and have a get right game. Because you looked at the schedule and you saw this little lull before the ACC really kicks off. So that's going to be important for Miami to stabilize, get a convincing victory in this game going into Michigan State, and you have the full ACC schedule ahead of you. Clemson lost, North Carolina in the
Yeah,
Coastal lost,
and
so
I
there's
think
chances
Miami
there for the
played.
ACC.
I think Miami played the best game out of all of those guys. From a standpoint, as in they looked the best. Alabama was the best team that played all weekend, like head and shoulders better than
Yeah.
every team that played. So, um, Miami's in good shape. Michigan State game is going to be a lot tougher than we expected,
Mhm.
obviously. But Miami has the team to win. They just have to do it now, right? And the coaching has to add up because I feel like if they go 1-2 down the stretch, I think people are going to be calling for Manny Diaz head.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this with Dono just a little while ago. It's pretty much ACC championship game or bust, I think, for Diaz this year. They have to get into that game. Presumably, it's going to be against Clemson and not relive the last time those two met in the ACC championship game
Yeah,
where
and they
Clemson
and
won
they and
38 to
they
3.
can they can beat Clemson this year, to be honest, because Clemson did not look good. They have no creativity on offense.
Mhm.
A lot of condensed formations, no running game. So Miami should fare a little bit better against Clemson because even though DJ is gonna find the rhythm, the kid is very
Mhm.
good. He's gonna find the
Yeah.
rhythm. Georgia defense is very very good.
Georgia gave you the blueprint there, but
Yeah,
their front seven and that pass rush was just all over
yeah,
Clemson's
then the
offensive
pressure they
line.
were bringing. So, I ain't gonna say they gave you the blueprint because I don't think Miami's defense is comparable
No,
to
no, I
Georgia's,
agree, but
but I think they have a better chance of winning this year than any of the
mhm.
previous years.
Well, and there's a lot of holdover on the Hurricanes. They had a lot of guys returning. So hopefully, with that experience as the season progresses, they can just continue to get better week to
And
week,
I
like
and
the
I
old
think that was
coach's
the biggest
cliche
thing.
goes.
Like we didn't care if they won. You just wanted to be competitive, right? Miami wasn't even competitive, never competitive from the jump. It was like, oh, we playing Alabama. We know they better and they're gonna beat us, and that's how it felt.
Mhm.
Like the game felt from the jump, right?
Yeah, it was over before it started against Alabama, which you hate to see that after a full off season to prepare for this one game. But Alabama was nearly a 3 touchdown favorite for a reason. They're obviously head and shoulders against the pack in college football, at least as it stands so far. But no, I'm looking forward to the Appalachian State game as sort of one of those get healthy games. But it's also one of those games that if Appalachian State hangs around and makes a game of it, even if Miami wins, there's still going to be a lot of negativity in the air leading into a much tougher game, perceivably against Michigan State. But hopefully Miami can get right and just build on it, take some things that they did well against Alabama and transpose that every week
Yeah,
and
we're
just
not gonna judge one person off one game. You never do that. It's a long season, so
mhm,
Miami just has to get out and continue to do their thing and
yeah,
play hard and play hard. That's what we want to
right,
see.
yeah,
The effort was not there, and that was very
early,
disturbing for me. That
yeah,
was my
early they look flat.
that was the most disturbing part for me. And
Mhm,
like I say, going to the ACC championship game, if they come out flat again, it's like, okay, he's not a big game coach, right? He's
right.
not the guys ready to play. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But we're gonna wrap it up here in just a minute. So before we go, Jock, tell us about your football squad. What's the latest with the boys you got going on?
yeah, so we are currently 3-0. It's been a great experience. Can't even lie. Shout out Cooper City Colts. Me, Mike Pouncey, John St. Clair, Troy Stanley, Will Griffin, Blue, who's actually the DB coach at American Heritage. So it's been such a great time, around those guys every day, learning the knowledge. I know you guys are probably seeing a little picture of me and my running back. He threw up the peace sign, I threw it up, in
The young
support. But
bull.
yeah, so I'm just happy, and I'm just happy that the impact I'm able to have on these kids, and further in their career, maybe some of those guys go play at the University of Miami, or wherever they may tend to be. But It's just been a great experience, and I can't wait to continue the season. Hopefully, we continue to progress, but we will do stuff in the off season. If you guys have any kids, you can always bring them out, man. We'll love to work with them.
Well, that's great. It's really good to see what you're doing in the community with these young kids and giving them a chance to compete out there in a game that I know you love and a lot of them love as well. So, want to thank everybody for watching. And before we go, where can we find you on social, Jock?
King Jock 24.
And you can find me at David W. Eversole. Once again, want to thank our great sponsor of the Miami Sports Break, La Terrain Watches. You can find them on Twitter, LA_terrain, and at the same laterrain.com. Use promo code 5RSN, get 10% off. Thank you so much. We'll be back on Friday.